if you hear that, that is my AC. And like I said, your girl gets hot. I'm not turning my AC off because I don't want to be sweating in this video. So hello, booktubing world. It is I, Capri Nicole, and I am back. Let me make sure I lose my gem, child. I'm back for another video. So this week has flown by very quickly. It has been a very hectic week. Work has been a nightmare, and I originally had 2 other videos planned, but one of them I didn't finish reading all the books I needed to for that video, and then the other video I didn't want to film because it involved a lot of movement, so that video probably will be next week or the week after. So because I don't have any videos planned, I figured that I would talk about some of my most anticipated books on my TBR on Goodreads. Now my TBR on Goodreads, last that I checked, let me grab my little tablet here, 482 books. So I have 482 books that I want to read. I scrolled through the first few of them and I have 13 books on this little list of books that I really want to read and I'm excited for. Now these books, they're not all new releases. They didn't technically come out only this year. Some of them aren't even out yet. It's really just a mix of books that I'm excited to read or that I'm really excited to get into. So let's get into the video. I feel like I should probably close this up. So the first book that I have on my list is Wolf Gone Wild, and I think Riley Marie talk about this book in one of her recent videos, and it's basically like a love story between a werewolf and a witch, and the werewolf is able to shift change, but he's able to shift change to human form and wolf form, but the wolf has a mind of its own and it's a little bit more villainous, if you will. So right now he's unable to shift for 3 months and he needs her help in order to be able to shift back, because the wolf is kind of like taking over his mind and making him go a little bit crazy. So he's going to her for help and he's falling in love with her, but his wolf form is like trying to kill her, I think. So it's like a battle within his head and he's just like struggling. I think it sounds really cool. I like any books that have like paranormal vibes. I've been really heavy on like horror, paranormal. At the beginning of the year I was kind of into like romance, but I'm kind of like over that right now, and like fantasy books at the moment. Fantasy is my favorite genre, but yeah, so this definitely sparks my interest. I'm really excited to get into it. I haven't heard anyone talk about it on BookTube, so I'm interested to read it. It came out last year, January 2020, so it's not that old of a book, so I feel like it's gonna be good. So the next book that I have on my list is The Maidens, and I'm pretty sure everybody has already heard about this book or heard someone talk about this book because it is a part of the book of the month packaging, and almost every booktuber is a part of a sponsorship for that. So if you don't know, The Maidens basically follows this teacher, and child, let me read the synopsis before I make some make some shit up because I don't even remember. I didn't know it had something to do with like a teacher and cults and something. Okay. So The Maiden is written by the same author that wrote The Silent Patient, and I remember that was like very popular in the book community like last year. I read that as well and I really loved it. It follows this professor who is very popular and very charismatic and very just charming. But the other main character, she used to be a student at the school, and a lot of the strings of murders that happen at the school or around the school, she suspects that this teacher is somehow intertwined in it, because he just has this really weird like culty following that is called the Maiden. They basically just like follow and adore him in a way, and they're students at that school, and I think one of her friends ends up being murdered, or one of her friends' cousins or something like that ends up being murdered. So she's like determined to prove that it's him that's tied into these murders, and then another girl ends up being murdered and she still can't prove that it's him, and people start thinking that she's crazy and she starts losing her credibility, and everybody's like, girl, you need to go sit down somewhere. So it's basically her trying to pinpoint him as this murderer the entire book, even though everyone is like in love and adores him, and it has like Greek mythology tied into it, so I'm interested to see how I feel about it. This book did come out this year. It came out last month, actually, June 15th, so it's kind of a recently published book. The third book that I have on here is Summer Suns, and I don't know how to explain this book, so I'm probably just gonna end up reading the synopsis, but it's kind of like a horror-ish book. And it basically follows these two best friends. One of them ends up being killed, and then there's like a phantom or something like that that follows the best friend that's still living. It's not out yet. I think this one comes out at the end of the year, so let me just read the synopsis because it's kind of hard to explain. I'm not gonna sit here struggling trying to figure out how to explain it. So basically it says, the synopsis on Goodreads says, Andrew and Eddie did everything together. Best friends bonded more deeply than brothers, until Eddie left Andrew behind to start his graduate program at Vanderbilt. 6 months later, only days before Andrew was to join him in Nashville, Eddie dies of an apparent suicide. He leaves Andrew a horrible inheritance, a roommate he doesn't know, friends he never asked for, and a gruesome phantom with bleeding wrists that mutters of revenge. As Andrew searches for the truth of Eddie's death, he uncovers the lies and the secrets left behind the person he trusted most, discovering a family history soaked in blood and death, whirling between the backstabbing academic world where Eddie spent his days and the circle of hot boys, fast cars, and hard drugs that ruled Eddie's nights. The walls Andrew has built against the world begin to crumble, letting in the phantom that hungers for him. Like I said, this book is very hard to explain. Just from this synopsis, I still don't even know how to explain it. But I'm gathering there is a ghost following this man, and there are some secrets that are going to be revealed, and I am just here for it. I'm really getting into horror. So this book comes out September 28th, 2021. So it comes out at the end of this year, fall this year. So the next book that I have on my TBR is another horror. I have a lot of horror books on this TBR, but it is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Tiffany D. Jackson, I've read almost all of her books. I think except maybe one. I think I've read all of her books except one. And she always just does a really good job at adding in like a horror film or like a horror vibe to her books, even when it's not a horror book. She's really good at just making things like dark, and this is going to be her first book where it's like set to be a horror book, and it's pitched as a haunted house meets Get Out. So that's all I need to know. That's literally all I need to know. White Smoke is like a young adult psychological thriller that follows the main character who has always had ghosts kind of hunt her in a way, and her family ends up moving into this new town and new house, and within that house it is a very creepy setting, and there's a lot of ghosts, there's a lot of secrets, and I'm just ready. I've just really been getting into horror books and really getting into like thrillers, so I'm excited for this one because I know Tiffany is going to deliver. And I don't think this book is out yet. I think when does it come out? This comes out at the end of the year too, so this one comes out September 14th, 2021. So again, another fall book in 2021, obviously because they're thrillers, they're gonna put them out during the spooky season, you know what I'm saying? So it comes out in September. So the next book that I have on my TBR is Where the Drowned Girls Go, and this is the 7th book in the Wayward Children series, which if you don't know, this is a pretty popular book on BookTube too, but the Wayward Children series is a book that follows children that end up going into a different world, and then they end up coming back to the regular world, and they're trying to learn how to cope with being in that world, and also low-key hoping that they're able to go back to the world that they visited. The world that they end up going to ends up being more of a home to them in a way, and it's more connected to them. And a lot of them do wish to go back to their world, and they don't want to be in the real world. But that's basically what this book series follows, is just like people going into like alternate universes, alternate worlds. And now there is a school that the children go to once they come back from these alternate universes to be able to get back into the real world, and it is called Eleanor's House for Wayward Children. And then there is another house that other children go to, which is kind of like the opposite of Eleanor's house. But one of the main characters in Eleanor's house ends up not doing well in her school, so she ends up transferring her to the other school. So that is what this story is going to follow, and I'm excited to get into it. I don't think this book is out yet. This book doesn't come out until next year, so this book comes out in January 2022, but I'm definitely ready to pick it up. She always writes really short books, but she's really good at setting the atmosphere for the world, so that's my favorite thing about her book. So I'm definitely ready to pick this one up. I don't even know what this book is about. I just saw the cover. Like I just saw this cover and I was just like, I don't care what this book is about. I need it on my TBR. Blood Cyan? 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 Blood Cyan? English is hard. Wow. So basically this book is based off of a Nigerian mythology, and it follows this main character that is trying to save her family from oppression, and she ends up getting taken to be a part of an army, but she has a power that is basically, she's a Cyan, where she can set anyone on fire at will. Like if she want to kaboom you just gonna get kaboomed. That's just what it is. Okay, like fire powers. I feel like if I had any type of powers, I would want it to be fire, or like being invisible. Like those would be my top two. I wouldn't want to read anyone's mind. I don't care what they're thinking. Yeah, I would be fire, or it would be invisible. So basically she has a fire power where she can set anyone on fire. She ends up joining, or not joining, but she ends up being taken to be a part of this military, and she's fighting her way out to basically get back to her family. She's learning more about her lands and just discovering her magic, and she has this whole revenge thing going on. It's just a lot of things happening. Well, in the synopsis it does say that it's good for fans of Children, Blood and Bone, and if you don't know, Children, Blood and Bone is one of my favorite books. I'm here for the fantasy, I'm here for the black girl magic, I'm here for Nigerian mythology, because there are so many different types of mythology other than Greek mythology. So I'm just ready to see more cultures being added into young adult books and just books in general, because I just want to know about all the cultures. Okay, so the next book that I have on my TBR, I literally just added to my TBR because of the cover. The cover is adorable. Like it just makes me so happy. It's just so beautiful. I just love seeing black girls on covers, black girls with colorful hair. Like come through, give it to me. So this book is called For Vacation Only, and it follows the main character who ends up getting stood up at his own wedding, but he decides the honeymoon is paid for, I'm going to go anyway. So this king goes on his honeymoon cruise regardless, and he ends up meeting Jubilee, who is a singer and a dancer, and they end up getting to know each other, but obviously because they're on a cruise, they're not from the same place. And as time goes on, it's getting closer to the final destination. They're trying to see if they can make things work. It's so cute. It's so adorable. This makes me feel so warm. And the second that I'm back in the romance mood, this is like at the top of my list. This one, and I think it's called Sweet Hand or Sweet Take or something like that. Those two are at the top of my list once I feel in the mood to read romance, because they just both sound so adorable. Yeah, this one came out last month, so it's already out right now. It's on Kindle and it's in paperback. So I think I'm gonna order the paperback just because I need to physically see this cover. It is just so adorable. And I think both of these covers were illustrated by the same artist. I'm not 100% sure, but I could have sworn that these are by the same artist. So okay, so the next book that I have at the top of my anticipated list is The Witch's Heart, and this is basically like from my understanding, it's a book about a witch that falls in love with Loki, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know nothing else. I don't need to know the ins and outs. Like, Loki is one of my favorite characters, and I love characters that have witches in them. So when you have a romance between the two, like, bring on more witch romances. That's what I need to see. I need to see more of that. I already have like 3 of them on my TBR, so I just need to see more of that. I'm not going to go into a whole synopsis of that book because that's all you need to know. Loki and a witch falling in love. That's it. That's all you need to know. What more do you need? The next book that I have on my most anticipated list is 6 Crimson Cranes. So this is written by the same author that wrote one of my favorite books that I read this year, which was, wow, what was the name of that book? How embarrassing. Okay, wait, it's on my shelf. She wrote Spin the Dawn. Child, I could not remember the name of the book, but it was one of my favorite books that I read this year. I really enjoyed my experience while reading that book. But the name of this book is 6 Crimson Cranes, and a lot of people actually have been talking about this book. Is it out yet? It came out last week. So this book came out a week ago, July 6th, 2021. So basically this book follows the main character who has magical abilities, and she doesn't want anyone to know, but her stepmother ends up finding out that she has magical abilities, and her stepmother also has magical abilities, but it's a dark power. And she tells her that if she tells anyone that she also has these powers that she will kill her brothers. So she turns all 6 of her brothers into cranes, and she banishes her from the palace, and she's basically set out to stay the hell away. And if every time she speaks to someone about the fact that she has magical abilities or her stepmother has any magical abilities, she will kill one of her brothers. So I really almost bought this book last week when I went book shopping. It's going to be acquired soon. I'm really trying to slow down with the book buying because right now I'm in a different state for work, so I have to go back home eventually, and the more books that I buy, the more books I have to bring back home, so I need to just relax. But this book is on the top of my list. Just saying. The next book that I have on my most anticipated books is The Prison Healer, and this basically follows a main character who has been fighting for her life in the pits of hell, aka prison. Like, she has to compete in these trials to be able to win her freedom, and they end up throwing the queen down, the rebel queen down there, and the queen is really sick, and she is trying to protect her and also win the trials, because if she wins the trials, then her and the queen will win their freedom. So that's the basis of this book, and all I need to know is a badass main character fighting in some trials. We got a rebel main character, we got a sick main character, so she's probably gonna try to make sure she's okay and nurture her back to health, and fighting for your freedom. That's it. That's all I need to know. So this book, I think this book is already out. Yes, this book came out in April of this year, so it came out like 2 months ago. So I saw it in the bookstore the other day, I'm not gonna lie. It is on top of my list to get picked up. The next book that I have on my most anticipated books is a manga, and it's called The Spy Family, which basically follows this main character who is a spy, and he's just like the best at what he does. He's independent, he don't need no help, but then he's put on an assignment to take down a private school, and in order for him to do that, he has to come up with an alias of a family man. So he has to get married and have a kid, and he is trying to complete this mission, but he doesn't know that his wife is an assassin and that the child that he has is a telepath. So it's basically all of them being in the same house undercover and not knowing what the other one's job is. So it just sounds really cool. It sounds funny, and I think Mina's the one that I heard talking about this where she really enjoyed it, so I'm definitely excited to pick this up. This one came out last year in June, so I'm gonna see if I can track it down and start reading it because it just sounds adorable. I think it's going to be hilarious. So the next book that I have on my TBR is called So Many Beginnings, and it is basically a black retelling of The Little Women. I've never read The Little Women. I don't know what it's about. I just know that it's like a classic, and it basically isn't like, it doesn't have like a huge plot. It really just follows these sisters in their lives. So this one is basically set to follow black sisters in their lives, and it's like, it's a retelling of Little Women. And I think this author has another book that is a black retelling of another classic, so I think she's just like doing retellings of classics but making it black, and I am here for it. Okay, I haven't read Little Women yet. I don't know if I will, but this one I will be picking up because I want to support my black authors and my black characters. Thank you. Final book that I have on my most anticipated books, it's a novella erotica book, and it's called Liquor and Laundry, I think. Yeah, Liquor and Laundry. So basically it follows the main character who had a one-night stand with her high school crunch. It was a very drunken night, and she regrets it, but he does not, and he's trying to pursue her for like a relationship and more than just that one night. So it's basically following their little love story. It sounds cute. I can't remember who I heard talk about it, but I just remember hearing them rave about it and say how much they really enjoyed it. So I definitely want to pick this one up. I'm trying to read more like smut books. I'm just trying to make sure I don't stay only in fantasy because it is my favorite genre. I typically end up only grabbing fantasy books, so I'm just trying to widen the spectrum and just make sure I'm reading all of the books that I feel like I would enjoy. We love a drunken night. We love a one-night stand. We love someone just going for it. If you like somebody, you better scream it from the rooftops, okay? So I'm interested to see, and I just like when the guy is like pursuing the girl, you know, when the guy is the simp. We love a guy that's a simp, so I'm interested to see that unravel. Yeah, that is it. So those are all my books that I have on my most anticipated books. And like I said, some of them come out in 2022, some of them already came out, some of them came out this year. Honestly, I'm not like the squared away booktubers that know when the books come out, and they have their TBRs, anticipated books all set up for the end of the year, for fall, for the beginning of the year. Child, I just be clicking, adding books to my TBR, and whenever they came out is whenever they came out. Like, it is what it is. So that is my list of 13. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you if you made it this far to the end of this video thanks to this box, I would say leave a box emoji in the description box below. If you have any horror recommendations or thriller recommendations, also I would greatly appreciate those. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I will see you guys next week. My schedule lately has been posting every Saturday. I usually post every Saturday at 3 o'clock or 3:30, but today the video is going to be a little late because your girl had to work yesterday, your girl had to work today, and the 2 videos that I had planned, I didn't finish the books for. So yeah, but yes, you can look forward to videos from me every Saturday at 3 o'clock or 3:30. So I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Check out some of these books that I have on here. Let me know if you know of any of these books or have read of any of these books. I will see you guys next week.